Imagine you are in the darkest room imaginable. There are no walls, no ceiling, and no floor. You are suspended in absolute emptiness, and the only thing surrounding you is an infinite, oppressive silence. You close your eyes, and when you open them again, you see lights beginning to ignite in this darkness. First one, dim and distant, then a second, a third, and in an instant, an ocean of billions of glowing dots stretches out before you. You are looking at the universe. At first glance, it is chaos. It is a disorderly scattering of diamonds on black velvet, where there is no up, no down, no structure, no meaning. We humans are used to thinking this way. We are used to believing that the cosmos is random, that galaxies are scattered through space like raindrops falling on asphalt, without any system or logic. This idea calms us. It tells us that we live in an ordinary, unremarkable world, where the laws of statistics work flawlessly. But what if I told you that this is a lie? What if this chaos is just a mask hiding something frighteningly orderly? Something that looks not like nature, but like a blueprint. On January 11, 2024, the 243rd meeting of the American Astronomical Society took place in New Orleans. It is an event where the best minds on the planet gather to discuss boring graphs, refine data, and drink coffee during breaks. No one expected a sensation. Astronomy is a slow science. Discoveries here are made over decades. But when a young PhD student from the University of Central Lancashire named Alexia Lopez took the podium, a silence fell over the hall, which turned into whispers, growing into a hum of disbelief. She showed a slide that should have been impossible. Glowing on the screen was a structure that broke the spine of all modern cosmology. It was the Big Ring. Not a ring of dust like we see around Saturn, and not a ring of gas left after a supernova explosion. It was a ring made of galaxies, and its dimensions were mind-boggling. 1.3 billion light-years. Let me repeat that again so you feel the weight of these words. 1.3 billion years is how long light, the fastest thing in the universe, takes to fly from one edge of this structure to the other. To help you understand the scale, our galaxy, the Milky Way, our huge home containing 100 billion stars, has a diameter of only 100,000 light-years. If we shrink the Milky Way to the size of a small grain of rice, the Big Ring would be the size of a huge football stadium. And this entire stadium, from stand to stand, is lined with the same grains of rice. Other galaxies, clusters, and superclusters. It is one of the largest structures ever found by humanity in the entire history of observation. But the scariest thing about it is not the size. Size can be explained by gravity, time, random coincidence. The scariest thing is its shape. It is perfect. It is an almost flawless circle. In nature, in the wild chaos of explosions, collisions, and gravitational pits, such forms do not arise by chance. If you walk through a forest and see a broken branch, you know it is the work of the wind. But if you see branches neatly woven into a perfect ring lying on the ground, you understand. Someone was here. Someone had a hand in this. Someone created this with a purpose. Or, at least, laws are operating here about which we have not the slightest idea. The Big Ring looks exactly like that, as if someone took a cosmic scale compass and drew a giant area in the sky with it. Today, we will go on a journey that will make you doubt the reality of the world you see outside your window. We will dive into a mystery that right now, at this very minute, is turning Nobel laureates gray. We will learn why the existence of this ring violates the main law of physics, the cosmological principle. We will find out how it is connected to another giant structure found by the same Alexia Lopez, and why together they look like a frame or skeleton of our universe. And in the end, we will ask a question that makes one cold. If this is a frame, then who is the architect? And why did they need to build such giant decorations around our small, insignificant planet? Welcome to the era of new cosmology. An era where the universe no longer seems random. An era where we begin to see the bars on the windows of our reality. But to understand the depth of this horror, we need to go back a little. We need to understand the rules of the game by which, as we thought, the universe plays. In science, there is a foundation, a stone on which the entire building of astrophysics stands. It is called the Cosmological Principle. It sounds complicated, but actually, the idea is very simple. This principle states, the universe is homogeneous and isotropic. What does that mean in simple terms? It means the universe is the same everywhere. Imagine a giant pie. If you cut a piece from one edge, it will look and taste exactly the same as a piece from the other edge. It will have the same amount of raisins, the same amount of dough, the same amount of sugar. Yes, if we look through a microscope, we will see differences. Somewhere a raisin is bigger, somewhere smaller. So it is in the universe. We see stars, planets, galaxies. These are lumps of matter. But scientists agreed. If you look at the universe from a very large distance, if you step back far enough, then all these small details will merge into a single, gray, uniform background. There shouldn't be places where there are too many galaxies. There shouldn't be places where there are none at all. And certainly, there shouldn't be places where they line up in geometric shapes. This is the law. This law allows us to think that we are not special, that Earth is not the center of the world, that the laws of physics discovered in our laboratory work a billion light-years away from here too. Scientists even calculated the mathematical limit of this homogeneity. They called it the end of greatness scale. According to their calculations, structures larger than 1.2 billion light-years cannot exist in the universe. Remember this number, 1.2. Why? Because the universe is only 13.8 billion years old. Gravity is a very slow force. It works leisurely. To gather matter into a pile, to pull galaxies toward each other, and line them up in a wall or a ring, takes time. A lot of time. And if objects larger than this limit existed, it would mean that gravity simply wouldn't have had enough time since the Big Bang to build them. It would be like meeting a 5-year-old child who has already managed to build a skyscraper with his own hands. It is physically impossible. And yet, in 2024, we find the Big Ring. Its diameter is 1.3 billion light-years, and the circumference is about 4 billion. It is already larger than the limit. It already violates the law. It spits in the face of probability theory. It is that very cobblestone in the dough that should be soft. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Because when scientists started looking closer at this object, they realized it is even more complex than it seems at first glance. Alexia Lopez and her team spent months analyzing the data. And they realized one thing that makes you feel uneasy. We look at this structure as if face-to-face, as if you were looking into the barrel of a gun pointed at you or into a well. But in reality, it is not a flat ring drawn on the celestial sphere. Analysis showed that it is a spiral, like a corkscrew, or like a giant spring stretched out toward us. We are simply looking through it, which is why it seems to us like a ring. This makes the structure three-dimensional and even more incredible. How could random gravity, a blind force of attraction, arrange thousands of galaxies into a giant regular spring a billion years in size? The probability that this is a random coincidence is so vanishingly small that calculators give an error when trying to calculate it. It's like pouring a bucket of sand on the floor. and seeing the grains arrange themselves, without anyone's help, into an exact copy of the Mona Lisa portrait. And in color too. But how did they even find it? It's not a bright star. You can't just go out on a balcony at night, point an amateur telescope at the sky, and see such a behemoth. It is too big. It covers an area in the sky equal to 15 full moons. Imagine the night sky. Imagine a full moon. Now imagine an object 15 times larger. It hangs there every night, right above your head. But you don't see it. It is invisible to the human eye because it consists of very distant, very faint and dim galaxies, light from which has been traveling to us for 9 billion years. It is too blurred. To find it, Alexia Lopez used a method reminiscent of shadow theater. She wasn't looking for the ring itself. She was looking for what it hides. She used quasars. Quasars are the brightest objects in the universe. These are the active nuclei of young galaxies, in the centers of which sit monstrous black holes devouring matter at such a speed that they shine brighter than trillions of stars put together. They act as cosmic lighthouses, as searchlights beaming through the entire thickness of the universe straight into our eyes. Light from these searchlights flies to us for billions of years, and if on the path of this light something invisible is encountered, something cold and dark, for example, clouds of gas belonging to the galaxies of the Big Ring, then these clouds leave an imprint on the light. They absorb part of the spectrum. They bite off a piece of the rainbow. Specifically, they absorb ionized magnesium. This is called magnesium-2 absorption lines. These are like fingerprints. If we see a dip in the place of magnesium in the quasar's spectrum, we know the light passed through a galaxy. Alexia Lopez analyzed light from 40,000 such quasars. 40,000 lighthouses. It was titanic work. She was looking for patterns, and she found them. She noticed that in one specific area of the sky, in the constellation Boötes, these magnesium shadows line up in a clear, non-random pattern, a ring pattern. She plotted dots on the map one by one, and before her eyes, a structure emerged from the chaos of data. It was like archaeologists reconstructing the appearance of an ancient city, finding only the foundations of buildings under a layer of sand. But when the data was collected, no doubt remained. The structure is real. It is there, and it is huge. Now let's take a deep breath and try to realize what this means. We are talking about an object that is 9 billion light-years away from us. This means we see it as it was 9 billion years ago, when our solar system did not yet exist, when even our sun wasn't in the project. And this structure was already there, huge, majestic, and frighteningly regular. It stood there in the dark, waiting for a mind capable of creating telescopes and seeing it to appear on one of the planets. But the most interesting part begins when we look at the neighbors of this ring. In 2021, the same Alexia Lopez, while still a student, made another discovery that also made a lot of noise back then, but was quickly forgotten. She found the giant arc, another colossal structure of galaxies arranged in the shape of a perfect crescent. Its length is 3.3 billion light-years. This is 3 times the limit of theoretical possibility we talked about. The arc itself was a blow to cosmology. It was like a slap in the face to all theorists. Many scientists then tried to write it off as a data error, as a statistical fluctuation. They said, well, it happens. The human brain likes to find pictures in clouds. You just imagined it. Galaxies randomly lined up, and you invented an arc. The skepticism was enormous. No one wanted to rewrite textbooks because of one student. But the discovery of the Big Ring in 2024 changes everything. It is a control shot. Because do you know where this ring is located? It is located in the same area of the sky as the giant arc, near the constellation Botas. They are neighbors. And what is even more important, they are at the same distance from us, approximately 9 billion light-years. This means they are not just neighbors in a flat picture of the night sky. They are neighbors in real, deep, three-dimensional space. They are connected. They are part of one system. Imagine walking through an endless desert. Everywhere is just sand and rocks. And suddenly, you find a huge, perfectly hewn stone column. Skeptics might say, it's a game of the wind. Nature can create bizarre shapes. You walk further, and 100 meters later, you find a perfect stone arch. And another 100 meters later, a perfect stone ring. At that moment, you stop believing in the wind. You stop believing in coincidence. You understand that before you are ruins. Ruins of some gigantic temple built by an unknown civilization. You see the design. You see the architecture. Just so, the arc and the ring could be parts of something even more grandiose. Something we cannot yet see in its entirety because we are too small, and our instruments are too weak. We are like ants crawling on a skyscraper blueprint. We see individual lines, we see corners, but we don't see the general plan of the building. We don't see the architect's intent. The probability that two such gigantic, impossible structures ended up next to each other by chance, at the same distance and in the same area, is so small that it makes no sense to discuss it seriously. It is a system, and this system challenges everything we know about the world. Scientists are now in a state that can be called quiet panic. The Standard Model of Cosmology, the Lambda CDM model, which served us faithfully for decades, which explained everything, from the birth of stars to the expansion of the universe, is bursting at the seams. It cannot explain these objects. Within the framework of this model, such objects simply shouldn't exist. The model says that matter should stick together in lumps gradually. First stars, then galaxies, then clusters. But the Big Ring and the giant arc look as if they appeared at once. Ready-made, huge. Gravity works slowly. To gather galaxies into a ring of such size, to make them dance in such a round dance, takes tens, if not hundreds of billions of years. Our universe simply didn't have that much time. It is only 13. So, either the universe is older than we think, and we are mistaken about the age of our world by orders of magnitude, or we don't understand how gravity works on super large scales. Maybe there, in deep space, other laws apply. Or, and here we come to the most intriguing part, to what takes your breath away. Or these structures arose not under the influence of gravity, but under the influence of what? What can be more powerful than gravity? What can move galaxies like pawns on a board, arranging them into geometric shapes? There is a theory proposed by the famous physicist, Nobel laureate Roger Penrose. It is called conformal cyclic cosmology. It says that our universe is not the first and not the last chapter in the history of being, that the Big Bang, as the beginning of everything, did not happen. There was another universe before us, and it also lived, expanded, aged, and died. And our universe was born from the ashes of the previous one. And these giant rings and arcs could be scars, traces of that previous universe. Imagine that in the past world, billions of years before our birth, two supermassive black holes of unimaginable size collided. This collision generated gravitational waves of such force that they literally crumpled space-time. They sent ripples through the fabric of reality. And when the new Big Bang happened, when our universe was born, these folds, this ripple, didn't go anywhere. It imprinted itself on the new matter. Galaxies simply filled these ancient scars, like water fills dry riverbeds. If this is true, then the Big Ring is an echo of a catastrophe that happened before the beginning of time. We are looking at the imprint of an event that happened in a world that no longer exists. It's like finding a dinosaur footprint in stone, only instead of stone, space itself, and instead of a dinosaur, an ancestor universe. We are engaged in cosmic archaeology, digging up layers of reality that lie deeper than the Big Bang itself. This theory is both frightening and fascinating. It makes us part of an endless cycle of rebirths, where nothing disappears without a trace. But there is another theory, no less crazy, but with a mathematical basis. Cosmic string theory. We have already mentioned them, but here they play the main role. Cosmic strings are defects in space. Imagine space is ice. When water freezes, cracks form in it. Cosmic strings are cracks in the universe left from the moment of its birth when it was cooling. These are thin tubes of pure energy, thinner than an atom, but longer than the entire universe. They possess colossal mass. 1 centimeter of such a string weighs like Mount Everest. Some physicists believe that strings can form loops, closed rings. If such a giant loop of cosmic string formed in the early universe, it would become a gravitational trap of incredible power. It would start attracting gas and dust from all sides. Matter would fall onto this invisible thread and ignite with stars. Galaxies would form along this string like beads strung on a fishing line. And then what we see through telescopes is not just a random cluster. It is the materialization of a mathematical defect of reality. The Big Ring is the visible outline of an invisible crack in the universe. We see matter clinging to a scar on the body of God. Do you feel how the scale is changing? We started with astronomy, with dots in the sky, and arrived at the fundamental properties of being. These objects are keys to doors we were afraid to open. But we are only at the beginning of the journey. We only peeked through the keyhole. In the next part, we will open the door wide. We will talk about what the Big Ring looks like in detail, what is inside it, and why some scientists whisper the word artificial. Stay with us. Imagine this moment. A silence fell over the meeting hall of the American Astronomical Society. It was not a silence of respect, but a silence of confusion. When Alexia Lopez showed her graphs, many scientists in the hall felt the ground slipping from under their feet. Because in science, there is an unwritten rule. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. You can't just come out and say physics was wrong. You have to prove it with mathematical precision. And Alexia did it. She brought not just a picture, she brought statistics. In the world of science, there is the concept of sigma. It is a measure of certainty. When physicists discovered the Higgs boson, they reached the 5 sigma level. This is the gold standard, which means the probability of error is 1 in millions. It is a fact. Well, the probability that the Big Ring and the giant arc arose by chance, that stars simply coincided in such a bizarre pattern, is 5.2 sigma. This is above the gold standard. In the language of dry mathematics, this means a verdict. A verdict on our understanding of the cosmos. It is not a cloud looking like a rabbit. It is a concrete wall we crashed into at full speed. But let's look at this object more closely. What exactly did astronomers see? We call it a ring because it is easier to perceive. But when Lopez's team loaded the data into a 3D model, they saw something even stranger. The structure is not perfectly closed. It looks like a spiral, like a giant corkscrew, or a spring from an old clock stretched straight toward us. We look inside this corkscrew, like into the barrel of a pistol, and that is why it seems to us like a ring. This discovery makes the situation even worse for theorists. Gathering matter into a ring is difficult, but gathering it into a spiral, a billion light-years in size, is beyond the realm of fantasy. In nature, spirals arise due to rotation. Galaxies rotate, hurricanes rotate, water in a drain rotates. Does this mean that this colossal section of the universe rotates? If so, around what? Where is the axis of this rotation? And what monstrous force could spin matter on such a scale, where gravity should be weak and lazy? To understand how this is even possible, we need to figure out how Alexia Lopez found this ghost. After all, the Big Ring doesn't shine like a Christmas tree. It consists of very distant and very dim galaxies that our eye will never see. The method she used is brilliant and reminiscent of shadow theater. Imagine standing in a dark, dusty room. You don't see the dust in the air, but if someone at the far end of the room turns on a powerful searchlight and points it at your face, you will see dust motes dancing in the beam of light. You will see shadows. In space, the role of such searchlights is played by quasars. These are supermassive black holes in the centers of distant galaxies located behind the Big Ring, even further from us. They devour matter and shine so brightly that they are visible across the entire universe. Light from these quasars flies to us for billions of years, and when this light passes through the galaxies of the Big Ring, it encounters an obstacle. Gas. Cold clouds of ionized magnesium surrounding these galaxies. Magnesium works like a filter. It absorbs part of the light, leaving a dark line in the quasar's spectrum. A shadow. Alexia Lopez analyzed light from 40,000 such quasars. 40,000 beacons in the darkness. It was work requiring inhuman patience. She looked for patterns in the shadows, and she found them. She noticed that in one specific area of the sky, in the constellation Boötes, these magnesium shadows line up in a clear system. If you connect the points on the map where light was absorbed, you get a perfect circle. It is not a hallucination. It is solid matter hanging there in the void, casting a shadow on our telescopes. Now let's try to imagine the scale. The diameter of the ring is 1.3 billion light-years. The circumference is about 4 billion. If you boarded the fastest spaceship that could possibly exist and flew at the speed of light along this ring, you would need a time equal to a third of the age of our entire universe just to make one circle. It is not an object, it is geography. It is a continent in the ocean of space. Inside this ring, the density of galaxies is lower. Outside is the ordinary universe, and the ring itself is a dense wall, a fence of superclusters of galaxies. If a civilization lived in one of these galaxies, their astronomy would be completely different. They would see in the sky not just individual stars. They would see a giant strip of light crossing the entire sky, like the Milky Way, but consisting of millions of other galaxies. They would live with the awareness that they are part of a great wall. But the most interesting part begins when we remember the neighbor. We already said that the giant arc is located near the ring. But let's look at the map again. They are located just a few degrees apart, and they are at the same distance from us, 9.2 billion light-years. This means they are physically close. They are roommates. This suggests that the ring and the arc are not two different objects. They are parts of one single superstructure. What if the arc is also a ring? We just see it at an angle, or a broken ring. Together they form a structure resembling chain links, or a frame, or the skeleton of a giant building. There is a scientific theory that tried to predict such things. It is called baryon acoustic oscillations. It sounds scary, but the essence is simple. It is sound waves. In the very early universe, when it was a hot soup of plasma, pressure waves passed through it, like ripples on water from a thrown stone. When the universe cooled, these waves froze. Matter accumulated on the crests of these waves. Theoretically, this should have created spherical shells of galaxies. Bubbles. Scientists have been looking for these bubbles for decades, and here, it seems, we found them. The Big Ring looks like such a bubble, but there is one problem: size. According to calculations, these sound bubbles should be 10 times smaller. The Big Ring is a bubble that broke all laws of growth. It is too huge. It's like throwing a small pebble into a pond, and the wave from it washing away a city on the shore. The energy that created this ring must have been monstrous, unimaginable. And this brings us back to the idea that our universe might be completely different from what we imagine. What if we are wrong at the very foundation? We measure the distance to galaxies and the speed of their recession based on Hubble's law. We believe the universe is expanding with acceleration and attribute this to mysterious dark energy. But what if dark energy doesn't exist? What if it is an illusion? There is a theory called the Hubble bubble. It states that our Milky Way is by pure chance in the center of a giant cosmic void, a huge region with low matter density. And the Big Ring and giant arc are the boundaries of this bubble. These are the walls of our cell. Matter inside the bubble, where we are, is attracted to the dense walls by gravity. Therefore, it flies apart faster than matter outside. It seems to us that the universe is expanding with acceleration, but in reality, we are just falling onto the walls of our own pit. If this is true, then all modern cosmology is a survivor's bias. We built the physics of the universe sitting in a unique, anomalous place. We thought the whole ocean was like our quiet backwater. This would explain why the ring and the arc are at the same distance. It is simply the radius of our bubble. We finally saw the edge of our jar. Do you understand the irony? We were looking for the structure of infinite space, but found the boundaries of our own prison. But let's go even further, towards a theory that takes many people's breath away. Simulation theory. Why are these structures so geometrically regular? Circle, arc, spiral. Nature loves fractals. It loves unevenness, chaos, ragged edges. Clouds are not square, mountains are not triangular, but the Big Ring looks like compass work. In computer graphics, when a huge open world is created, programmers use procedural generation. Algorithms create the landscape on the fly, and to save memory, they often use repeating patterns. Tiling. Maybe the Big Ring and the giant arc are the place where the universe tiled, where the matter generation algorithm failed or entered a loop. They look the same. They are nearby. It looks like using the same 3D model in different parts of the map because the developer was too lazy to draw a new one. We look at the sky and see the laziness of a programmer. Or maybe these are rendering artifacts, the place where textures are stitched together. If we find another such structure nearby, it will be proof. 3 points form a pattern. We already have 2. Astronomers are now feverishly scanning the sky around the constellation Boötes. If they find a third circle or a big triangle there, then we can safely turn off telescopes and start looking for a way out of the matrix. Because nature does not build geometric figures in a row. Only a mind does that. Alexia Lopez, the girl who discovered this, admits in interviews that she is scared. "It's surreal," she says. "I have to pinch myself because it looks like fiction, like a data error." But the data has been double-checked. Magnesium absorbs light. Shadows exist. The ring hangs there, in the dark, ignoring our theories about what the world should look like. It is so big that if you stretch your hand to the sky, it would occupy the distance from the tip of the pinky to the tip of the thumb. 15 full moons. Imagine a giant invisible eye hanging over you every night, and it is watching. And now let's add one more fact here, which is often overlooked but is key to understanding the whole picture. The Big Ring is located near the North Galactic Pole, in the direction of the constellation Boötes. Do you know what else is there? The famous Boötes Void, the Great Nothing, a sphere 300 million light-years in diameter where there are almost no galaxies. The Big Ring, the giant arc, and the Boötes Void are all neighbors. It looks as if someone cleared a place in space. Like a giant bulldozer scraped galaxies to the sides, creating emptiness in the center and dense structures, a ring and an arc, on the edges, like piles of Earth. This looks like a gigantic cosmic construction site. Who could move galaxies? Only gravity of incredible force. Or time. A lot of time. More than the age of the universe. Here we approach the second critical point of our story. Age. To create a structure of such size and such purity of form, processes lasting tens of billions of years are needed. Galaxies must flow slowly, lining up. In our universe, which is only 13.8, all processes are still raw. The universe is still a teenager. It still has teenage chaos. But the Big Ring looks like the work of an old master. It is too mature, too perfect. This is another, perhaps the strongest argument in favor of our universe being older than we think. Either our dating methods are wrong and we missed by a couple of tens of billions of years, or we are witnessing processes from the previous cycle of the universe which Penrose spoke about. We see the bones of giants who lived before us. Imagine an ant hill. Ants know their paths. They know where the food is. But they don't see that their entire ant hill is inside a glass cube in a laboratory, and that the shape of their tunnels is determined not by nature, but by the walls of the cube. The Big Ring is, perhaps, the wall of our cube. We have hit the limit of understanding. The scientific community is now split. The old guard is trying to save the Standard Model. They say, this is a statistical fluctuation. You were just lucky to find a random pattern in the noise. They try to close their eyes, hoping the ring will disappear. But new astronomers, armed with artificial intelligence and big data, are finding more and more such impossible objects. The South Pole Wall, the Sloan Great Wall, the huge large quasar group. The universe turns out not to be smooth. It is lumpy. It is structured. It looks not like expanding gas, but like a growing crystal, or like an organism. In biology, there are structures similar to the Big Ring. These are cell membranes. These are neural networks. In 2020, a group of Italian astrophysicists compared the map of the cosmic web with the map of human brain neurons. The similarity was striking. Galaxies gather in nodes connected by filaments, just as neurons connect by axons. The clustering coefficient, spectral density, the mathematics of these two systems matches. What if the Big Ring is not just a wall? What if it is a functional node? What if we live inside a giant brain, and this ring is part of its thought process? An electrical impulse frozen in matter? At such a scale, time flows differently. 1 billion years for us is a nanosecond for this entity. We see a frozen structure, but in reality, it is a wave of activity running through the cortex of the universal brain. Maybe that's why we are here? Maybe life is the universe's way of becoming aware of itself? We are nerve endings looking at our own synapses through telescopes. Of course, this is philosophy. But when physics hits a dead end, when formulas stop working, philosophy comes to the rescue. In the next, final part, we will try to put this puzzle together. We will connect the ring, the arc, the walls, and the flow into one picture. We will learn what leading physicists of the world think about this, who have already started whispering about new physics. And we will ask the main question. If this is a blueprint, Then what is the goal? Why build the universe in such a strange way? Maybe these rings are not just structures, but giant magnetic coils, particle accelerators the size of a metagalaxy? Or is it just ripples on the water left by a stone thrown by the Creator? Get ready. The finale is ahead. We will find out if we have a chance to understand this design, or if we are doomed to forever look at shadows on the cave wall without seeing who casts them. The ring is waiting, and it is not going to disappear just because it does not fit into our textbooks. We have reached the final line. Now that you know about the existence of the Big Ring and the giant arc, when you understand that these structures are impossible from the point of view of modern science, it is time to ask the most important question. What does all this mean for us? For humanity sitting on a small planet and thinking it has solved the mysteries of the universe, you might not like the answer. Because the Big Ring is not just an anomaly, it is a harbinger of collapse. The collapse of our certainty that we understand the laws of physics. In science, there is a term that astronomers pronounce in a whisper: crisis in cosmology. For a long time, we thought we had the perfect map, the Standard Model. It has dark matter holding galaxies together. It has dark energy pushing the universe apart. And there is gravity working according to Einstein's laws. Everything added up. But Alexia Lopez's find is like finding a huge mountain range on a map where there should be a deep ocean. It means the map is wrong. It means we are lost. Right now, theoretical physicists are feverishly looking for a way out. And one option is modified gravity. What if Einstein was wrong? What if on giant scales, at distances of billions of light years, gravity behaves differently than in our solar system? Imagine that the force of attraction does not weaken with distance as fast as we thought. Imagine that at the edge of the universe, gravity becomes rigid, like a steel cable. This could explain how galaxies lined up in a ring. They were pulled together by a force we don't know about. A force that works only on the scales of gods. If this is so, then we might not need dark matter. We don't need dark energy. We need new physics. Physics in which the universe is not a set of flying fragments, but a single, connected mechanism. A rigid structure where every galaxy is a screw screwed to an invisible frame. But there is a more frightening interpretation. Symmetry. The Big Ring is almost perfectly round. The giant arc is symmetrical. Nature does not like perfect symmetry on such scales. Clouds are not square. Mountains are not triangular. Perfect geometry is a sign of artificiality, or a sign that we are looking at the structure of a crystal lattice. There is a hypothesis that space-time is not continuous, that it consists of tiny cells, like pixels on a monitor screen. Usually, these cells are so small, Planck length, that we don't see them. But what if at the moment of the universe's birth, a glitch occurred, and this pixel grid inflated to macroscopic sizes? Then the Big Ring is a facet of the crystal universe. We live inside a giant diamond, and light, refracting through the facets of this diamond, creates the illusion of rings and arcs. We see the structure of the screen itself, on which our movie is shown. This sounds like science fiction, but mathematically it is possible. If the universe is a crystal, then it has facets, it has a center, and it has an axis. Remember the axis of evil we talked about in previous videos, the line dividing the sky into hot and cold. A mysterious axis piercing the universe. The Big Ring and the giant arc are very close to this axis. They are strung on it like parts of a child's pyramid toy. This is no longer a coincidence. It is a system. The universe has a spine, and we live somewhere near this spine. This completely destroys the Copernican principle. We are not in a random place. We are in a special place. We are in a place from where the structure is visible. Imagine you are in a huge dark hall. You don't see the walls, but if you stand at a certain single point, you will see laser beams converging into a pattern. We are standing at exactly such a point. And it is scary, because if the universe has a center and we are near it, then who put us there? But let's go even further. If this is a structure, what is its purpose? In biology, there are structures similar to the Big Ring. These are cell membranes. These are neural networks. We have already mentioned the similarity between the universe and the brain. Galaxies gather in nodes connected by filaments, just as neurons connect by axons. What if the Big Ring is not just a wall? What if it is a functional node? What if we live inside a giant brain, and this ring is part of its thought process? An electrical impulse frozen in matter? At such a scale, time flows differently. 1 billion years for us is a nanosecond for this entity. We see a frozen structure, but in reality, it is a wave of activity running through the cortex of the universal brain. Maybe that's why we are here? Maybe life is the universe's way of becoming aware of itself? We are nerve endings looking at our own synapses through the lenses of telescopes. Of course, this is philosophy. But when astronomy hits a dead end, when formulas stop converging, philosophy comes to the rescue. And now let's look into the future. What happens next? Alexia Lopez's discovery opened the floodgates. Now, a new telescope, Euclid, has been launched into space. Its task is to create the most detailed three-dimensional map of the universe. It will see billions of galaxies. And scientists are afraid of what it will find. They are afraid it will find even more rings, even more arcs, even more walls. If Euclid confirms that the sky is covered with a network of such giant structures, the Standard Model will collapse completely. Textbooks will have to be rewritten. We will have to admit that we know nothing about the world we live in. Imagine the news headlines in 5 years. The universe is a lattice. We found the boundaries of reality. This will change our worldview more than the discovery that the Earth revolves around the sun, because it will mean that the world is not chaotic. It is deterministic. It was created according to a plan. Created by whom? Nature? A higher mind? Or a programmer who wrote the code for our simulation? In simulation theory, there is the concept of resource saving. The computer does not draw every atom. It uses ready-made templates. Copy-paste. The Big Ring and the giant arc look suspiciously alike. They are at the same distance. It looks like using the same asset, the same 3D model in different parts of the map. We look at the sky and see the laziness of a programmer. We see where he cut corners. But there is a more optimistic view. These structures are maps. Maps for future travelers. If humanity survives, if we don't destroy ourselves in nuclear fire and can go beyond the solar system, we will need landmarks. In the infinite void of intergalactic space, there is no north and south. There is no up and down. Stars change position. Galaxies drift. But the Big Ring is there. It is a beacon visible for billions of years. It is an eternal landmark. Imagine ships of the future plotting a course not by stars, but by these megastructures. Keep course for the left edge of the arc. Pass through the center of the ring. These objects will become the geography of the universe. They will become our continents in the ocean of emptiness. We will give them names. We will live in their shadow. But for now, we are here, on a small planet, looking at dim shadows on quasar spectrograms. Alexia Lopez, discovering these objects, said an important thing. We need to remain humble. The cosmos constantly flicks us on the nose. As soon as we start thinking we are the kings of nature, that we understood everything, It shows us a ring a billion light-years in diameter and says, "You are not even dust. You are less than dust. You are nothing." But therein lies the greatness of man. We are less than dust, but we are capable of seeing this ring. We are capable of understanding its shape. We are capable of being frightened by its size. We are the only part of the universe that can be horrified by itself. The big ring hangs there, deep in the constellation Boötes. It was there long before the birth of Earth, and it will be there long after our sun goes out and turns into a cold crystal. It waits. Maybe it waits for us to grow up to understand its true essence. Or maybe it is a door. Remember we talked about wormholes? About how gravity can roll space into a tube? What if a ring of such mass and such size is an entrance? An entrance to another place, or another time? Giant stargates built by physics itself, or by someone who knew how to control physics. If you fly through the center of this ring, where there is emptiness, where there are no galaxies, where will you end up? Maybe that's where the exit from the simulation is? Maybe that's where the level ends? We don't know. Not yet. But the hunt has begun. Astronomers all over the world are now looking for new anomalies. They are reviewing old maps. They are looking for patterns, and they will find them. And with every new discovery, with every new impossible wall or arc, we get one step closer to solving the main mystery. Why is there something here instead of nothing? Why did chaos become order? We end this story, but the history of the Big Ring is just beginning. This discovery will still be challenged, verified, confirmed. There will be new theories, new disputes. But one thing we know for sure: the universe will never be the same for us again. It has ceased to be just a set of spots on a black background. It has acquired a form, and this form is frighteningly perfect. If this topic hooked you, if you felt this chill from realizing the scale, don't forget to hit like. It helps us tell more people about such things. And write in the comments what you think. Is the Big Ring nature, a glitch in the matrix, or an artificial construction? And be sure to watch the next video. We talked about structures, about what is. But in the universe, there are places where there is nothing. Absolute voids. And the most famous of them is the Boötes void, neighbor of our Big Ring. Why is the largest hole located next to the largest structure? Coincidence? Or did someone take matter from the hole to build this ring? It sounds like madness, but in space, madness often turns out to be the truth. Click on the video that appeared on the screen. Find out who stole galaxies from the Boötes void. See you in the abyss.